I do want to just check with, we have several people joining on the phone. So if you're a member of the commission, will you, and you're on the phone, will you let me know? Because I know I have Larry from DNR, Kelly, Dudley from SAO, and then so I saw Sam Teasley join. Is anybody else here?
Chairman Dave Belton, House
Okay.
Representatives.
Okay.
Do you need Bill Werkheiser on this call?
I believe he was going to come, but then I think Tom Bauer is going to present for him, right? Was the last that I've heard. Okay. There is a lot of background noise, so be sure to mute yourselves, or I will mute you if you've got something going on that you shouldn't be speaking. So we are obviously using a different platform than we did the last meeting. So this is just a regular Teams meeting. So I'm sure you guys just saw that somebody said that you're being recorded. We're recording this meeting and we'll be providing it to folks. That way they can still watch it if they want to. So that's a little bit different now, but that means everybody who's watching the meeting has a link to this. So just kind of be cognizant of your mute button when you are not physically speaking. So again, right now, is there anybody from Department of Ag, Public Health, or Department of Revenue on?
Hey, Anna, good afternoon. This is Jessica Simmons with the Department of Revenue.
Hey, Jessica, thank you. Okay. All right, well, that gives us a quorum to start with. So, like I said, we have a good bit to get to today. So to start with, I'd like to just go over the meeting from last week and get the minutes approved. So I had sent around the minutes from last meeting, and the crux of it is we had an overview of House Bill 34 and a presentation from Representative Belton, as well as Kelly Ball from the Speech Language Hearing Association, and went through the benefits of the bill being passed. So to start, I'd like to see if there's a motion to approve that.
This is Jessica. I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
This is Sam Teasley. A second.
Okay. Is there, so just the members vote. I know this is just the members vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. Good. All right. So moving on, I had provided everyone a draft report of the recommendations for House Bill 34. I sent it to the members I think it was very early Saturday morning. So what I'd like to do now is just go over the findings that we had for that report, and then get any discussion from the council members or anyone, and then get a motion on how we'd like to move on that report. So, and to everyone who's saying I didn't get a copy of that report, we just provided it to the council members, and once we have a final report, we'll send it out to everyone else. So our report found that the professions of audiology and speech language pathology require a specialized skill and training. And by entering the ASLP-IC as one of the first of the 10 member states, it would allow Georgia to participate in rulemaking and setting up the fee structure. This is beneficial to Georgians, as it would ensure that any non-Georgian practicing across state lines has the same educational background as those licensed as Georgia in their home state. The second finding is there is a recognizable potential for harm to Georgians by not entering into the ASLP-IC. And they are, with the introduction of telemedicine, the council notes that there are two issues to arise where harm could come to Georgians. The first being currently there is a shortage of audiologists and speech language pathologists in the state, particularly in rural areas. By expanding the potential pool of licensed providers, this would allow access for previously underserved parts of the states. And two, it would help protect Georgians from bad actors offering telemedicine services outside the bounds of licensure. And the third finding is there is an anticipated positive economic impact to Georgia by entering into the ASLP IC through increasing the audiologist and speech language pathologist workforce. Increasing access for audiologists and speech language pathologists to work within the state would allow military spouses to easily begin practicing as soon as they cross state lines. So those are the findings from the draft report. So I'd like to open it up to the council members for any questions or discussions about what I just read. Does anyone have anything they'd like to add or comment about it? Okay, so hearing none, is there a motion from the council to have a recommendation on this report? Those are just our findings, so we need to have a recommendation.
So I'm going to jump in here. This being essentially this is my second meeting, and I apologize. What are the motions that are available to us here? Again, I apologize for my ignorance.
No, that's a great question. So we can recommend our recommendations are just that, recommendations. The legislature can do what they wish with our recommendations, but we can recommend to pass as is. We can recommend to pass but change these couple of things, or we can recommend no because of these things. So it's kind of really on how we would like to say kind of thumbs up or thumbs down on the bill.
Hey, Anna, this is Jessica from Revenue. If there are any questions, obviously I'll hold, but if not, I'll go ahead and make the motion to accept the recommendations.
Okay. Any discussion, or do you want a second on that?
I'll second the motion. This is Larry Blankenship.
Okay, so the motion is to recommend the approval of House Bill 34 as currently written. So all in favor of that, can you turn your cameras on if you can, or just say aye so I can get the good vote.
Sam Teasley, aye.
Okay.
Jessica Simmons, aye.
Larry Blankenship, aye.
Okay.
Megan Andrews, aye.
Okay, and then I vote aye as well. Okay, so that one passes. So thank you to all of our audiology folks. We will have give us a couple of days to get the final report this tacked on, and we'll post it to our website and provide it electronically to all the folks on the call. But so all of the audiologist folks, y'all can hop off unless you want to hear the discussion about the next two bills. Okay, so moving on, we are going to rinse and repeat with the next two bills. So we are going to start with House Bill 268, which is the Occupational Therapists Statewide Compact. So let's start with doing a quick overview of that bill and the little statewide report that we did. So Matthew, can you turn your camera on and do that for us?
Absolutely. Yep. So this is House Bill 268. This is the Occupational Therapist Licensure Agreement.
sponsored by Chairman Belton. What this bill is going to do is include Georgia into an interstate compact of occupational therapist licensure. As a member state within this compact, occupational therapists practicing in Georgia would have increased mobility to practice in other states. Occupational therapy is defined in the bill as the care and services provided by an occupational therapist or an occupational therapy assistant as set forth in the member states' statutes and regulations. All occupational therapists and assistants must be licensed by the state to practice, and it would not change the standards for licensure in Georgia. Rather, it would allow for occupational therapists and assistants to practice in another state more easily if they move, and it would also allow for increased access to occupational therapy via telehealth. For a state to participate in the licensure compact, they must license occupational therapists and occupational therapy assistants, participate in the compact commission's licensure database, have a mechanism in place for receiving and investigating complaints against licensees, conduct criminal background checks of applicants for an initial compact privilege, comply with the rules of the compact commission, utilize only a recognized national exam as a requirement for an occupational therapist and occupational therapy assistant's licensure, require continuing education for license renewal, grant the compact privilege to a holder of a valid license in another member state, and provide for the state's delegate to attend all compact commission meetings. And then to exercise the compact privilege, a licensee must hold a license in their state of residence, which must be a member of the compact, have a social security number or national provider identifier, have no encumbrance on any state license or compact privilege in the previous 2 years, notify the compact commission of their intent to seek the compact privilege in a remote state, meet any jurisprudence requirements in the remote state and pay any fees, and report to the commission any adverse action taken by a non-member state within 30 days after the action is taken. All member states must share license information through a central data system. A compact state shall submit a uniform data set to the data system on all occupational therapists and assistants to whom this compact is applicable as required by the rules of the commission. This database will allow for the expedited sharing of disciplinary information. Investigative information pertaining to a licensee in any member state will only be available to other member states. So to go over to comparison with other states, Georgia is one of 18 states where this compact is currently in the process. It is in committee in Georgia. In the state of Mississippi, it's passed the Chamber of Origin, as well as in North Dakota and Ohio. All other states where it is in the process is either in committee or recently been introduced.
Thank you, Matthew. Okay, so I believe we're going to hear from the bill sponsor, or Tom, are you going to speak?
Yes, Madam Chairman. I think
okay.
Much as Representative Belton is at the House is still going on, I think, if they proceed, unless they just recently. And your is it Michael? I'm sorry, Mark. He did a very good job of describing the bill. The only thing I would add is that it does add one substantive requirement to the current OT licensure bill or board, and that is right now applicants are not required to have a background check, and so they would under this bill, as well as the compact privilege participants. And then two other changes are authorizing the board to conduct background checks and to administer the compact. But other than that, I think it's, yes, ma'am, go ahead.
So currently to be an occupational therapist licensed by the state, you don't have to have a background check done? Is that what you said? That's correct.
Current applicants, that is correct. So,
okay.
So we're proud to be offering that up as well. So,
okay.
And I don't know if Mr. Logston is on. He's sent you a PowerPoint. You had also suggested it would be helpful for us to have a member of the association. Eileen DeGregorius is on, and I think a member of the OT licensure board, Rob McClellan, may be on.
Yes. We have the PowerPoint ready to pull up on the screen if you want to walk through that. And unfortunately, Rob's having a little bit of a trouble getting logged into the meeting, so we're working on trying to get him in. So if you want to...
Yeah, this is Dan Logston with the Council of State Governments. I can certainly walk through the PowerPoint. And
Okay.
and given Matthew's recitation, I'll try not to linger over things that's already been covered, but I'll just hit the high points.
Okay.
All right. So yeah, let's go to there we go. Thank you very much. Okay, so obviously this compact is for occupational licensures and occupational therapists and occupational therapy assistants. It's similar in form and function to the other compacts. Georgia's really a national leader on these licensure compacts. You're a member of the existing compacts that are up for medicine, nursing, PT, psychology, and the psychology compact is actually based in Georgia, and the EMS personnel compact. So congratulations to Georgia for leading the way on these initiatives. It does address issues as far as access to care, and like the speech compact, which we just discussed, it has a 10-state threshold for enactment. The Council of State Governments has kind of arrived at that as a best practice number. So all the compacts we develop probably going forward will recommend that 10-state threshold number. I think a fifth of the states really designates, it sends a signal that this is for real and it can be stood up. So next slide, please. And this compact, like the speech compact, like PT, like nursing, is a mutual recognition compact. So what that means is all the member states are mutually recognizing the home state license in the other member state. So Georgia, the other member states still retained their primacy as far as regulating the practice of the folks that they license inside their state. This compact, like the others, is just a way to facilitate practice in other member states without having to get licensed there. We do that through a compact privilege. It does create an interstate commission like all the other compacts. All modern compacts now have interstate commissions. Georgia is also a member of 5 national compacts. The Emergency Management Assistance Compact, the Juvenile Compact, the Interstate Compact for Adult Offender Supervision. All these compacts have interstate commissions. That also is becoming a best practice. That commission is an instrumentality of the states. It's accountable to the states. It's not an entity unto itself. It can't act outside the 4 corners of the compact agreement. It will create a licensure data system that's based on public protection. That licensure system is a way that states coordinate around an investigation if need to. They upload their licensure information there. And then one unique thing about this compact is the member states will create a pathway to licensure if you change your home state of residence based on that compact privilege. We've got a section in there that deals with that. Next slide, please. And then so the public protection provisions, Tom referenced the FBI fingerprint-based criminal background check. So yeah, if you apply under this compact, if you apply for a privilege to practice, if you want that compact privilege, you've got to get your background check. If you just want to get licensed in Georgia and practice in Georgia, this compact doesn't require that you get that FBI fingerprint-based criminal background check. That's only if you want to participate in the compact. The project team thought it was important to not really burden the board with having to do background checks for everyone. So it's going to be specific to folks that want that compact privilege. Another thing that this compact does that PT does and that the speech compact does is, it's got that 2-year look back. So if your license has been encumbered or restricted in any way, you got to get past that 2-year period before you can participate. Again, that's another public protection measure. We rely on the home state, the primary state of residence, in this compact as with the other compacts, and the reason for that is based in discipline. What we've heard from legislators over the years as we've talked to them about these licensure compacts is they are certainly willing to give some states this sort of modified borderless practice, if you will, but they don't want their state board to have to go searching for them. So your home state has to join before you can participate in the compact. And then as Matthew mentioned, Georgia retains control over the scope of practice in its state. And if you're practicing in Georgia on one of these compact privileges, you have to adhere to that scope. Georgia retains control over their initial licensure process. They get access to the centralized data system, and they get to appoint, the state board gets to appoint the OT compact commissioner. So again, that compact commission is an instrumentality of the states. Obviously, the board would make those appointments. That's typical with the other licensure compacts. So next slide, please. And then to get that compact privilege, you have to have a social security number or national practitioner number. Again, there's the home state tie-in. You have to have a license in your home state. So let's say South Carolina didn't join the compact or Florida didn't join the compact, and you've got folks that live in those states that have a Georgia license. They can't participate in the compact unless their home state joins. And again, that ties back to discipline. We mentioned the no encumbrance in the previous 2 years. You also have the onus to notify the compact commission if you've got a license in another non-compact member state and it becomes restricted in some way. The onus is on you to notify your state board and the commission of that. And again, that will trigger some sort of loss of privileges or your ability to participate in the compact. Again, we're not trying to create a high bar, but what we've heard from legislators over the years, if you're going to give folks the ability to almost seamlessly move around the country, we want to make sure that we don't have any repeat offenders here. And then, obviously you would notify the commission if you want that compact privilege. So the next slide. Thank you. And again, so this is very important. All the compacts do this to preserve state sovereignty. You must adhere to the laws and regs in the member state in which you're practicing. You won't have a defense before the board if they don't allow a procedure and you're engaging in it, because the compact's explicit. I think it says 3 different occasions that you're under the member state in which you're practicing. You're under their jurisdiction. The compact privilege benefit for practitioners is the compact privilege renews at the same time as your home state license. So that's a benefit for the practitioners. They only have to track their continuing ed in their home state. So that's a benefit for the practitioners. And then Tom mentioned the military aspect of this. The language to deal with military spouses in this compact was developed in conjunction with the Department of Defense. They were our partners in creating that language. It first appeared in the compact, the ASLP compact, and we've again adopted that as a best practice language. It really gives a lot of flexibility to military spouses, enables them to not have to leave the workforce when they move, have a change in station. Military families, as you know, move about every 3 years. So that's one of the great benefits of this compact. And frankly, all the compacts are either have language in the compact or in their rules to deal to effectively deal with military spouses and the challenges that they face. And then let's go to the next slide just briefly. So, increasing access to care, supporting military spouses. This compact also facilitates telehealth as well as in-state practice. It's for OTs and OTAs. We believe that it promotes cooperation among the OT member states and their licensing boards. And again, for the reasons that we've already stated, we believe we have a higher degree of consumer protection. And then the next slide is just a visualization of where we are. So that's where the compact has been filed and where it's up. So we're looking at Alabama with hope maybe this year, but definitely yes next year. And we should have updated this. Just found out last night. North Carolina just introduced the compact, so a lot of states in your all's neighborhood are looking to participate.
Okay, great. Thank you. I did.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Just one point of clarification to distinguish. Mr. Logston is right that the compact does not require affect the original applicant, but as I mentioned before, the background check, if this bill passes, will be for original applicants. So.
Okay, that was one of my questions. Okay.
Yeah.
So, are there anybody else in the council want to ask questions? I have a few, but I'll let other people go first if they'd like. Okay.
I also have here, if you want to hear from the other 2 people or they're available to answer questions.
Yeah.
I know Mr. Gracias is very excited about facilitation of telehealth, but we're mindful of the time, so it's totally up to you. Yeah.
Because I'm happy to let anybody speak who wants to be heard on these subjects. So I think what I'd like to ask a few questions, let the council members ask a few questions. And then we have Gabe from Secretary of State's here, so I'd like to let him talk a little bit about what the cost effects of this would be, and then have maybe 2 minutes for the other folks to
Thank you.
Okay. So I know particularly for the last compact we did with audiologists, telemedicine was a big driver behind that. So having worked with occupational therapists before myself, I'm curious how much of the practice of occupational therapy is able to be done via telemedicine, just as a general curiosity.
You're on, Eileen.
Good afternoon, everybody. And thank you for that question. I myself I'm a pediatric occupational therapist. And what we call like the silver linings of COVID is that it kind of pushed us to be able to really explore telehealth as an option or as a location of practice, especially during these times. We were able to continue to support families and provide medically necessary therapies to children. So because I'm a pediatric therapist, it has the value has become, rather than us simulating therapies in the clinic, we are actually in the natural environment while observing social distancing. And you know, my thought about this is that it will, you know, with me being a practice owner, it will also, and we can never have enough occupational therapists, pediatric occupational therapists, to provide OT services to Georgia residents, especially those that are in the rural areas. So what this has offered is that, you know, a family in, I don't know, in LJ will have access to an OT in Gwinnett. Now, being a part of the compact would provide access to all of these families with OTs from the member states. And then it would also open the market for OTs in Georgia, since we have several nationally recognized OT and OTA programs here. It opens the market for them. So I feel like there's mutual benefit to both the practitioners and the consumers.
Okay, that's a good answer. So you are doing telemedicine?
I am.
Okay.
I actually just
You just finished one
this morning. I just finished one. Yes.
Okay.
So I myself provide telehealth OT.
Okay. And then this is probably a question to Tom or Daniel. So with the background check, who's going to pay for that? Like, how is it set up that? Because I guess it's maybe a double-sided question, because it's going to be everyone who's currently occupied or currently has a license would have to then first get background checked to be a Georgia license holder, but then also for the statewide compact. So I'm just curious who has the burden of the background check.
Yeah, that would be the practitioner.
Okay.
And that might not be clear for the original applicant, and that's a good question to raise, Madam Chairman. And I'm not sure if that could be done by rules or not. If it couldn't, it might be something we would want to address.
Okay.
But my assumption all along was that it would be the applicant who would bear the expense.
And if I may speak to that, as an insurance provider, you are already required to provide a background check before you get in network with a lot of insurance companies. So that is not something new to the licensees. It's just part of you being, you know, part of a network or being employed in as a provider.
Okay.
And Anna, I don't want to prolong this, but this compact, the OT compact, if you want to participate in the compact, you have to get that FBI fingerprint-based criminal background check. But it doesn't have a requirement that other licensees have to go through that process. Like the physical therapy compact does do that. This one doesn't do that.
Okay.
It's specific to folks that want to participate in the compact.
Okay, great. Any other questions from council members to these folks before I move on to Gabe? Nope. Okay. Well, Gabe, I'm happy to have you back again and keep you're always on your toes with Gork. So if you could speak, I will say for the council, there was not a fiscal note requested on either 268 or 395, so there's not a formal fiscal note for these. So I just want to make that clear to everyone. It just kind of is what it is. So Gabe, do you have a few points you want to make about this bill, what the effect on Secretary of State would be?
Well, as per usual, we are supportive of anything that's going to expand competition, make things easier for the military families. I mean, all the good points, expanding telemedicine. There are some devils in the details on some of these things. Essentially, just want to tighten up some things that we just may not understand from reading the bill ourselves. If you look at line 190, it's saying that member states are issuing the privilege and not the Compact Commission itself. The way it sort of reads right now. And it's going to increase our workload if we're the ones actually issuing that. But we would probably have to be in the middle of that if this FBI background check is in there, given the federal rules exist now on getting those criminal background fingerprint checks back to us. Because an application, we have to tell them, yes, we physically have something from this applicant in our hands to get that information. So that's required. Have some way of tracking that. There will be a cost and time effort attached to that. And then
Mr.
also,
Sterling?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I can answer that, or if you want to get through your list, I'll be happy to wait. But however you want to handle it, I can address the.
Throw it now. What do you got?
Okay. It is anticipated with this compact that it would work much like PT. Yes, Georgia has the ultimate authority to issue that compact privilege, but that will be handled at the commission level. So that language that is being referred to is obviously it's under Georgia's jurisdiction, who can practice in their state. But like the PT compact, it's anticipated that all that will be handled at the compact commission level. So I hope that clears up a little bit.
I'll tell you this, though. The language feels squishy, and it's left as a really good legal word, squishy. So it's kind of understanding how, if we'll be rulemaking set to do this or the commission will do this, especially at the end of the thing, as we all say, any laws in the state of Georgia that conflict with the commission are basically defeated. So we need to have a better understanding of what that means specifically. And then also currently under the PT thing, like that's the commission pays us whatever the state fee would be for that privilege. So then going at 530, on line 530, who's going to be financially responsible for ensuring we're able to develop the processes to comply with the requirements and do the data sharing that are necessary. On the PT compact, there were grants in the pipeline from the FSB PT to pay for the IT development process so we can get those extractions set within our own data systems. And this is going to be a course in almost any compact, who's going to pay when, because we don't know how robust those data exchanges are going to need to be, because it doesn't really fully exist yet, as we are one of the first movers on this, which gives us a good position to be in, but we're jumping into an unknown situation on that. And if it turns into having to be a completely separate license in terms of our tracking as a compact license for somebody from out of state, it costs us just out of the gate to do any license type $25,000. If there is then tracking on that side, there is an additional cost, but it depends on how robust that gets and how many states we have to track with. So that's just a quick.
Gabe, would you repeat that again? I'm sorry, I missed that last point. Just
I dollar amount. Fast. I'm shocked. Just out of the gate, any kind of license type we have to do. Let's say we have to issue a license, and this is a compact license as opposed to a regular Georgia license, license. There would be a separate license type in our system, which is just $25,000 out of the gate. It sucks. I don't like it either, but that's where we are right now with our systems. And if we have to be tracking individually with the other states, and the data sharing complexities can up those prices, we just don't know what we don't know about that at this point. Because we won't know how many states are going to be doing this. And if it could change depending on if other states are using the same vendor and the same platform as we are, which in this case, we're using MLO from SA, which is one of the broader used licensing softwares. But we're in the middle of doing a new negotiation on a scope of work and service level agreement with them, which we can maybe be able to fold some of these compact costs into that. We just don't have a good answer to that right now. But as a general rule, I think it's good for us to be first movers on this. I think the Secretary agrees with that. Anything we can do to enhance competition, and I'm happy with the background check. We do have that one technical thing where we're going to have a quote-unquote application that's official with the state so that we can go to the FBI and say, give us this fingerprint government
Understood.
and criminal thing, which has become the last year and a half, or the last few months, they've actually kind of hammered down the handling rules and that, which is slowing down licensing across the United States with how they've done it. So
Yes.
hopefully we're going to find some better systems to handle those things, but it's definitely slowing things down. So with that, I'll leave the basic, as in general rule, we like these things, but let's make sure all the details are taken care of. And I'm always get squirrely around things that say all Georgia laws will be superseded by this compact, because I don't understand what that means once the compact is in place.
Mhm.
Yeah, I understand. And as far as the issuing of the privilege, I mean, understand squishy language. I think our language mirrors what PT's is.
It's
and
close. It's close.
yeah.
But exactly the same. I don't believe.
Yeah.
From our
Right. But the intention is all that would happen. But ultimately, Georgia has a right, and that's the way it was written. That's why it was written that way. Ultimately, Georgia has a right to say, no, we're not giving a privilege to this person. Maybe you denied that person a license a decade ago. They rehabilitated themselves, went to another compact member state. That state issued them a license, but for whatever reason, you don't want them to participate in your state. I mean, that could certainly be a reason. I know typically we all want to be forgiving on that front. And then as far as the data system, absolutely understand your concerns there. The good thing about it is, obviously, if Georgia's one of the first ones, they help to drive a lot of those decisions on the data system.
Yeah, being the first mover can sometimes mean you have the highest cost because you're going to build the system out and then you can share the cost later. So you got to keep that in mind as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So
sitting in an
Madam-
agency that has 440,000 licensees 5 years ago, we have 520,000 licensees now, and we're on the same $7.59 million budget. Not that I'm complaining for any legislators on the call to hear.
sure.
And
So-
Chair, could I
we are. I just had a call today with the medical compact. I mean, understand the challenges with the background checks and our friends at the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
Thank you for acknowledging that, because it is a pain in the butt.
We are going to very tactfully try to broach that subject with them.
Well, if you want to forget having tact, just call me and I can get on the call.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
So Gabe, a cost estimate for this, you're saying would just vary greatly depending on what the final rules would be.
Let's say baseline, we're going to have to do probably a little bit of rulemaking and have to do some kind of license type for tracking everything. Again, this is a guess based on limited information, probably at a minimum 30 to 35,000 out of the gate.
Okay.
Again, not the end of the world, but then there's the continuing costs. And as we've seen sometimes, we make estimates on how many people are going to take advantage of these things. Like when we did the structural engineering last year, we anticipated maybe 200, and we are already nearly at 1,100 now. So it's taken a lot more time and a lot more people interested than we originally anticipated. So there's no way of knowing how many people are going to want to do this, especially if telemedicine becomes a bigger thing as we move forward in the post-COVID world.
Right. Right. One final question for me, not for you, Gabe. Have any states passed this yet?
I believe it's on the governor of Virginia's desk, so we're close.
Okay.
Madam Chair, could I make a comment and ask a question?
Sure.
And I know you want to get to 395, so I'll be brief. One, I think, as Mr. Sterling says, there's no guarantee on the amount, but I think we're looking to track what the other disciplines are doing in terms of getting grants and the National Association supporting this compact. So that sort of addresses, I think, his line 190 concern. And I don't really have an answer in terms of the separate compact license that would require a change in the system. But I did talk to, and I don't know if he's on the call or not, I didn't see his initials, Mr. McClellan at the OT licensure board. And I don't really expect the state to be deluged with compact privileges in the process. So, and I would hope, I don't know, but that as Georgia gets into all of these, that we might be able to have one stamp person to handle all of those disciplines for that. But I don't think we're going to be deluging the state with people moving in or to practice or coming,
Chairwoman Miller, can I address one thing about that?
Sure.
When it comes to the deluge, that's just about processing times. for actually building out the system, whether it's one license or 10,000.
I understand. Yeah.
25,000. Make sure everybody else on the call understands that.
Sure. I'm just wondering if that's for each discipline, or can that be handled like?
It's going to be for each discipline, probably, with the way the thing is structured right now. Unfortunately, like I said, we're working on a new service level agreement, and I'm hoping to get to a point where we can have more of a template, low code, no code solution, but we're not there yet.
Great. Thank you both. Is there
We just
anybody
need better technology then.
for a lot of different things? Yeah. So, is there anybody else on the call who wants to speak for or to House Bill 268? I think we may have gotten to everybody since I asked a question earlier, but okay. All right, well, we are going to move on to the professional counselors. So, Matthew, can you pop back on and read us?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, Matthew, can you come back and talk about the summary for House Bill 395?
Yep. So this is House Bill 395. This is actually Chairman Dave Belton's legislation. This is going to include Georgia into the Professional Counselors Licensure Compact. As a member state within this compact, licensed professional counselors practicing in Georgia would have increased mobility to practice in other states. A licensed professional counselor is defined as a counselor licensed by member state, regardless of the title used by that state, to independently assess, diagnose, and treat behavioral health conditions. All licensed professional counselors must meet the education criteria and be licensed by the state to practice. Licensees must pass a nationally recognized exam approved by the Commission. They must have completed at least 60 semester hours of graduate education that pertains to counseling, and licensees must complete a supervised postgraduate professional experience as defined by the Commission. The bill would not change standards of licensure in Georgia. Rather, it would allow for licensed professional counselors to practice in another state more easily if they were to move. It would also allow for increased access via telehealth service. For a state to participate in the Professional Counselors Licensure Compact, they must license and regulate licensed professional counselors, conduct criminal background checks of applicants for an initial compact privilege, investigate if licensure applicants hold or have ever held an encumbered license in any state, participate in the Compact Commission's licensure database, have a mechanism in place for receiving and investigating complaints against licensees, notify the Commission of any adverse action against or investigation of a licensee, or comply with the rules of the Compact Commission. To exercise the compact privilege, a licensee must hold a license in their home state, have no encumbrance on any state license, be eligible for a compact privilege in any member state, have no adverse actions on any state license or compact privilege in the previous 2 years, notify the Compact Commission of their intent to seek the compact privilege in a remote state, pay applicable fees, and report to the Commission any adverse action taken by a non-member state within 30 days after the action is taken. All member states must share licensee information through a central data system. The compact state shall submit a uniform data set to the data system on all licensed professional counselors to whom this compact is applicable as required by the rules of the Commission, and investigative information pertaining to a licensee in any member state will only be available to other member states. Again, any laws in Georgia in conflict with the compact are superseded. In comparison with other states, Georgia really is the only state that has or is currently considering legislation to establish the Professional Counselors Licensure Compact. Maryland is considering HB 736 and SB 571, which would create the Interstate Licensed Professional Counselors Compact, and Nebraska is also considering LB 554, which would establish the Licensed Professional Counselors Interstate Compact.
Great. Thank you, Matthew. Okay, so we're gonna, if Representative Belton's on, I'd like to give you an opportunity to speak to this one as well. Or he may be voting. I think they're still in session. Okay, he may not be on the call, but I know that Julie McConnell should be on the call if you want to start speaking to this one.
Hello. Yeah, this is Juliana. We've actually asked Dr. Tom Black, who's
Okay.
on the board of licensed professional counselors, and
Okay.
he also has a experience. He has served for many years. He'll tell you about that. Also on the state board for social workers, MFTs, and counselors. So I will, if it's okay, ask Dr.
Yep.
Black to kind of discuss the bill.
All right, sounds good. Dr. Black?
Hi. I'm unmuting. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, it says unmuting. So I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you, Ms. Juliana, and thank you, Madam Chairwoman Miller. This is a lot of the same of the things that you've been talking about. Counselors have been licensed in Georgia since the 80s, and we are a profession that utilizes counseling and psychotherapy to work with mental illness, developmental disability, and substance abuse. We have licensure in all 50 states, and this will allow us, as the other bills, to increase the telehealth presence to provide services in much needed rural areas. We have information that shows a lack of services throughout the state of Georgia outside of the primary urban centers. Another big thing, as Matthew noted very well, is it allows us to share data with other states that we don't currently have, so that we can manage and monitor and maintain the integrity of our profession and ensure the safety of Georgians, that they're receiving appropriate and safe care. And near and dear to my heart as prior service military and a prior service military spouse, this helps a lot with that. Georgia, I live outside of Fort Stewart, and Georgia has, we get a lot of military members and families who deal with mental health, special, unique services that are often neglected because of the lack of portability with this. So I know that this is not enacted in any other state, but I've met with Mr. Logsden before in the last year or two, and we've talked about this with other national organizations, and several other states are hopeful that Georgia can lead the way with this and provide these services, and then hopefully they'll join the compact as well.
Okay. So I guess my first question out the gate is there any
This is David, Representative Dave Belton. You mind if I make a statement as well?
Sure.
Sorry, I've had issues with, we are voting, and we're trying to mute and not mute, and we're voting again here. But one other thing I'd like to add is that, like the psychiatry compact, which we did a few years ago, if, God forbid, there was a shooting in some state or whatever like that was happened, like in Florida a couple of years ago, that if these two states were in the same compact, that people in Georgia could immediately help those students or whatever, whatever issue it was, especially with counseling, which is so important, as well as the fact that the military, they use more psychiatrists and counselors than anyone because of the STD, all the different things that they had to go through the wartime experience. So this is a very, very helpful for Georgians, and hopefully, if there's a disaster, we could also, Georgians could help the other states in that crisis.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's a good point. My question, I know you're voting, is there any, since this is so kind of fresh, is there any like if we were to pass it as is there any potential that by the time the other 9 states were joined, it would look different or anything? Maybe that's a question for Daniel. I'm just curious.
No, the language is locked at this point.
Okay. So anybody else have questions on any of these?
This is Sam Teasley. I just want to make sure I understand the posture here. In the event that Georgia were to become the first state, we would be in a position of waiting for the other 9, an additional 9, before we could actually begin implementing this. Is that correct?
Yes, this compact has a 10-state threshold. Right now, it's currently being considered in Maryland and Nebraska. It's moving. North Carolina looks to be introducing, as well as Tennessee. But yes, so if you were to pass it this spring, very likely we wouldn't get the 10th member state till sometime early next year, mid next year.
This is Representative Dave Belton. One of the other aspects of getting in early is there's a military Pentagon scorecard, and we're trying to remain all green on that scorecard. And by doing this, this tells the military that we are a military-friendly state, which means that millions of dollars or billions of dollars really, and thousands of personnel and jobs can stay here in Georgia.
And just to piggyback off what Representative Belton was saying, the Pentagon, Department of Defense is, Georgia has to make the best decision for Georgia, but the Department of Defense is very interested in this compact. They were actually, they brought the counselors to me at the National Center for Interstate Compacts at the Council of State Governments, trying to put this together. They see it as a real shot in the arm for access to care issue with veterans.
Okay. Gabe, can I ask you to pop back on to talk about this one? I imagine it's very similar to the last one we heard.
I'm not going to say ditto, but I mean, essentially, yeah. I mean,
that's kind of.
It's sort of the same set of issues. This one actually will have probably a broader workload because I think this is a little more designed in occupational therapy to be more of a telemedicine usability thing. You can do it from anywhere in the country, and you don't necessarily have to have physical contact on some of those kind of things. So this would, I would imagine, be a higher volume thing. Same questions still come up, but I think on this one they all have criminal background checks on the front end to get their own, versus that in the other states from the OT we were talking about before. It's still some of the same issues apply, but it can add competition, gives better access, help those people in need who are more remote, as we've seen in the mountains and rural parts of the state with both addiction issues and mental health issues. This would obviously open up more avenues for care and create continuity for care for people who are moving from one state to another. So in theory, we of course would support this. The in practice section then comes down again to the dollars of building out the infrastructure and tracking that in a budget that is already strapped and limited. And for investigations that might be attached to this, which I think would be broader based kind of things for our composite investigators, which this falls under, we're tight. We have a limited number of investigators, we have a limited number of analysts on these things. So as we continue to go down this path, the volume creation of work will obviously have an impact on us, but it's an unknowable amount. And as Mr. Teasley wisely asked, when will we have to start really moving on this? We can set the foundational stuff down, but until the flip gets switched at 10, we won't know the volume we could be meeting or when that could begin. So if we do this, we need to make sure that the appropriators understand there'll be things attached to this. I'm sure, again, there will be on the intro costs. I'm sure there's a national organization that will be happy to give us grants to help their members, but we don't know how much that's going to be or when. So it's sort of a set of unknowable unknowns, the same way it was in the previous one. So I don't know if any other questions based on that.
I don't have any other questions. Anybody else in the council have questions to ask? Anybody on the call?
Brig, really appreciated your conversation earlier to kind of prep me for this, so I appreciate you taking the time to talk to our staff about this before this call.
Anybody else on the call want to speak for this bill? Okay, great. I do know that we had somebody, Rob McClellan. He had a hard time getting on the call. He was here to speak for the prior bill. Rob, do you want to say anything about the previous bill, or are you good? I hate to call you out, but I know that I hate for you to miss the opportunity to speak since you wanted to come.
No, I don't have really anything to add unless anyone has questions for me.
Nope, I just wanted to give you the opportunity.
Yeah, no, I agreed with what Tom and Aileen both said. Aileen about telehealth. I also provide telehealth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, that was a lot we've packed into the last 55 minutes, so I do appreciate everybody's time. So what our next meeting is going to look like, it is going to be St. Patty's Day, so it'll be 2 weeks from today at the same time, and we will be just like we did for House Bill 34. We'll go through the findings that the council will put together in the next 2 weeks. And knock on wood, currently I don't have any new ones on the docket, so we will. That's kind of where we'll end for now. So everyone can look for a final draft of the House Bill 34, which we voted on earlier, and it will be posted to our website, and then we'll just move forward. If there's any questions anybody has, feel free to reach out to me. But again, thank you for everybody's time and work on these bills.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's not addressing the puppy mills per se, but it's addressing the effects of what we're
I'm back now.
Yeah. Thanks, Sam.
Brother.
No further questions.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. Previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable?